Well, hello my friends. I am just dropping in. It's Shawn Petite and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am answering some questions and I'm going to do a series of videos answering questions. And so if you have questions about specific techniques or items or things that I use, please don't hesitate to leave those in the comments because I will be using them over the next year to do kind of a Q&A for you. And these are just quick, no frills video just to answer some questions and help you on your creative journey process. So I'm answering 3 questions today, and that is, what mat do I use? What do I use on my table? How do I clean my stencils? And I'm going to be talking about fixative and sealers for my work in my journal pages. So I thought I'd start off first with my mat. And so this is the mat that I'm currently using. It is a baker's mat. It's a non-stick extra large silicone pastry mat. I'll have all of this stuff linked for you down below in the YouTube description box. It's food grade silicone. I have tried a million things to get something that's going to be easy to clean, and this has been the best thing. So I tried in the past. I have on my table, I work on a large table space, and I have in the very background I have like a chair mat, a desk chair mat that I started with, and that was terrible because I'm not a good cleaner. And so if I left anything behind, it was stuck down to the table, and that just was, I mean, I was chiseling things off, and that's just ridiculous. I don't have time for that. So then I went to the craft mats, the silicone, or I guess these are silicone. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but that's what they're kind of labeled. And you can see I cleaned them so hard that I rubbed holes in them trying to get the stains and the marks out. So this wasn't a good option either. Then I went to the Fisker mats, which is fantastic. These are they're less expensive than this gray mat, but they're a little bit smaller, and they've got this line around it, and you can see I've got a couple of them. I've got them everywhere because I am a messy creator, and I paint every day. So I can't spend hours cleaning the space. I need something simple. So this Fisker mat is excellent. I love it. It cleans up well. I just needed something as a good backdrop for my camera work for doing video, and so I tried to find it, and I needed a bigger one as well. So this is a bigger one here, but you can see that it's pretty see-through as well. But I've got mat under mat under mat because I'm just that messy, and it just helps. So this first one here, if you're looking for like a nice white clean mat, it's heavy duty. Again, it's a baker's silicone mat. Actually, this says it's a silicone placemat. And let me just see, it's food grade approved, etc. This works really great. I just, I needed something that was a little bit darker for filming. And that's where I came up with this gray one, and it's working great. So, the size of this, I believe, was 16 by 19 wide. I wish there was a bigger one. I wish there was one that would cover my whole desk because that would be awesome. But the nice thing about these too is that hot glue peels right up. Everything peels up off of this. It's so easy to clean. So I've put some stuff out here on my table just so you can kind of see. So this is acrylic paint, and most of the time it'll just come right up. Over here, I don't know if you can see it or not, it's matte medium, and that's my biggest enemy when it comes to trying to get things clean. And it pulls right up. Everything just comes right up off of this silicone mat. It's just super easy. Modeling paste, any of the mediums, because I use a ton of different things, and they all pull up so easily. So I like peeling a sunburn. You could keep going forever. So what I like to do to clean, and this is soft pastel, this is charcoal pencil and some pen marks. I just spray my mat down with some this is alcohol, and I will just take, most of the time, a clean rag, but this one's not clean, and it just comes right up. It's just super easy. All the pen marks, all the things, all the stuff, the modeling paste or matte medium that I had right down here, it just comes right up. It's so easy to clean. Let me get a clean one. So I can spritz it with some alcohol and wipe it down, and within a few minutes my space is clean. I'm not having to chisel up anything, or I was spending hours trying to get my space clean so that I could shoot video or whatever, and this just works really well. And then if you can't get it all the way clean by doing this, you can take it to the sink and just give it a soak, and it'll clean right up. So I am really pleased with this. So anyway, I get this question asked all the time, and so this is the gray mat here, and I will leave a link for that in the description box. Okay, the next question I get asked the most is, how do I clean my stencils? And I'm not a real good cleaner of stencils. I'm just going to admit that right now. But when I do, and I do them probably quarterly, unless I notice that the images are being blocked by some paint or something like that, which happens a lot. And you can see by this one, it is well loved, and I don't clean them very often. But if I notice that I have somewhere that is being blocked by paint or has some gunk in it, I will just take my hand sanitizer, and I like it because it's it's a gel, and I can get into a spot and really clean my area. So this is what I do most of the time when I need to clean off a specific area for my stencils. If there's paint in it, in a letter or something like this one up here, I can just come in and clean it up. So you can see that it doesn't take much, and it lifts the paint right off. Now, some of these areas have modeling paste. Oh my goodness. Let's talk a lot. This is just covered with modeling paste, and that is the worst thing for a stencil because it really gets in the grooves, and your designs don't come out as crisp and clean. Now, the hand sanitizer doesn't work on the modeling paste or any of those kinds of mediums, and so I have spritzed typically what I do is I will spritz them with a little bit of alcohol and let them sit, and then I can kind of pull those up. If that doesn't work, then I know that I've got all the layers on there. Then I take it to the sink, and I typically will take my stencils to the sink, once a year, or like every 6 months or so, just to get all the gunk off of them, so that I can make sure that all of my designs, because like this one's really gunked up, so the design is blocked. So it needs to be cleaned. And what I will do is I will take my stencils, I will take them all, I'll take my clips off, and then I will put them in the sink. I'll put the plunger in the sink and fill it up, nice hot water, and I will put some Murphy's oil soap in there, and I just let them soak. And then once I get them out, I will start running some water, and I kind of have to peel some of that modeling paste up. It takes a little bit, and then once it starts to go, it'll go. You can take a soft rag. You have to be really careful as you're cleaning, because if you have a delicate pattern, you don't want to tear your stencils. So soaking them will help all of that gunk come up. Now, If you want to avoid this, you can have a tub of water next to you when you are using any of your pastes or modeling paste or whatever. But that, for me, it's not practical because I'm creating all the time, every day, and I'm not going to have a tub of water sitting on my table at every moment that I think, oh, I'm going to use that. So what I typically do is just fill the sink up, let these soak with some Murphy's oil soap, and then kind of start rubbing and peel off the layers of gunk, and then it's like brand new. So that's how I clean my stencils. Okay, so my next most frequently asked questions is about fixatives and sealing my work. So these are two pieces that haven't been sealed, and so excuse me. Typically what I do is I will put a fixative over it, especially if I have used any water-soluble mediums like charcoal or pastels or art crayons or pens or anything like that. I will fix it first because I can't seal it unless I know that those things are not going to be moving around once I put my sealer over the top. And so for many, many years I used Krylon's workable fixative, and I still use it because sometimes I have so much fixative or so much pastels or charcoal or something like that that's really water soluble. This one really doesn't work as well with. So this is, and I use this primarily for all of my products these days. And I bring this out when I have a lot of stuff on there that I know is going to smear. This is all natural. It's non-toxic. It's odor-free. It's perfect for soft pastels, chalk pastels, pencils, graphite, charcoal, all that kind of stuff. But it's very fluid. And let me grab a. It gets very wet, and so you have to spray at a distance. And the reason you're using that fixative is so you can preserve your piece and save what you've done. So you want to spray at a distance. You don't want to get real close because that's going to give you a lot of liquid. And I don't know if you can see on the camera how liquid that looks. And sometimes it will start to move your charcoal or your pen or whatever. So I grab my dryer and start drying right away. Because there's still, you can see how wet that is. And so the farther away you are, the more dispersed it gets. But I will do this on pretty much all of my pieces because I use pastels and charcoal pencil all the time. But you can see, I think you can see how wet that is. And I like to, if I see things are moving around, if I feel like, oh, that the charcoal's kind of spreading out a little bit, I'll get my dryer out and dry it. But most of the time, I can spray it like this and just let it set. And then I will do another coat of it. And once this is dried, I will do another coat of the Spectrafix. I use this because I can do it indoors. It's not toxic, like as toxic as the other is. It's just all around better for the environment and all that kind of stuff. So, and I use that also on my journal pages, and it's the same process. And I just spray it and then let it set. Then once this is dry, and I should say this too. So for the pieces that are super heavy, heavy charcoal, I will take this outside and spray it, and it works. This, you just need one coat, it's good to go. This is a wonderful product for fixing your charcoal and that kind of thing. It works wonderful. However, you just have to be in a well-ventilated area, and it's extremely flammable. The odor is strong, so you have to let your stuff sit. I mean, this has absolutely no odor. So there's pros and cons to both. I will use this when I'm commissioned for a piece, when I have a lot of charcoal or pastel or water soluble, anything. This is what I use to fix it so that I can then put a sealer on. If I'm working in my journal or simpler projects that don't have all of that stuff, this is what I use. So then once this is dry, and I'm going to get this dry. Okay, so this is dry. Now I want to seal this for its final seal. And there's a lot of things that you can use. I typically will use Liquitex. Has a gloss medium, a satin, a matte, so does Jerry's. There's a bunch. Golden has the same thing, but it says medium and varnish, and that's what it's made for. There are other, like DecoArt has this soft touch varnish. They have an ultra matte varnish, depending on the look that you want. If you want it a little bit glossy, you can do the gloss. If you want it kind of in between matte and satin, or matte and gloss, you can do the satin. It's really up to you. And so I will often use the matte varnish or the semi or satin, because I like the satin the best. I like the sheen of it. And the more you go matte, the kind of cloudier your varnish can be, your final seal, because that matte, there's a ground in there that helps give it that matte finish, and it helps give you some tooth and that kind of thing. And that's why I use it in my layers. But as a sealer for the top, gloss is going to be crystal clear. It goes on clear. It dries perfectly clear. So that I love about the gloss, but I don't like that glossy feel, especially for my style of artwork. And so the satin's a good option. So as you're beginning to seal, I always use a specific brush for sealing. I use a synthetic brush because it gives the least amount of brush strokes, and it depends on the look that you're going for. But I have a dedicated brush just for sealing. That's all it does, so that it's nice and clean and there's not gunk in it and that kind of thing. I will pour my medium or my sealer or whatever you're using, I pour it into a different container and I dip my brush in, and then I will run my brush over the top and give it a nice, and I don't go back and forth. I just use one swipe over the top, because the more you go back and forth, the more you have a chance of disturbing the picture below. So I just do one swipe, and then I'll get it dry and come back and fill in any of the spots that I missed. But you can see it's that simple. And so I can see that there's a couple areas that I need to go back over, and that's fine. But I don't want to go back and forth like that. I want it to be nice and smooth. And I don't want to take any chance of disturbing what I've already done. And that's as simple as it gets. And so you can see that there's some milkiness to this. This is the satin. It will dry clear. The matte will be even more milky, and the gloss will be clearer. And the matte medium can leave that kind of cloudy shadow over your work, especially if it's a dark color and that kind of thing. So be mindful of that if you're wanting to use matte. There are other mattes out there, the varnishes that might have a little bit clearer effect as you go, and that would be satin or gloss. And so then for my journal pages, I know a lot of you want to seal your journal pages, and I just don't do that for myself. I spray it with my fixative, and then I will typically put a piece of parchment paper in between my pages. And you know, a lot of people say wax it, and that's fine, and I've done all of that. It just ends up sticking still, because once it's done, I've gathered it together, because it stays open until I've actually finished the journal. So there's not a lot of pressure on those pages. But then once I finish the cover and close it up, and it's stuck like this for a period of time, and I go back through it, the pages still stick. And so the best way for me to not get any sticking on my pages is to spray it and then put the papers in between. You can still seal it. I would seal it, but I would still keep something in between those pages. And I know it doesn't look pretty like this, and so once I've finished my journal, I will cut the pages to fit my journal so that they're not sticking out like that, but it still acts as a barrier in between the pages so that you get some protection, because I use just all kinds of stuff. And it's hard to protect against all of that with the varnish unless you're putting tons and tons of coats of that on. But even then, sometimes it can end up sticking together with the other page. So that's my take on sealing your journal pages. But if you wanted to seal it, like with the satin, I would do it the same exact way that I did this piece here. And so those, I hope, those answered some of your questions, and that you found it very helpful. And if you did, subscribe and like and all those kinds of things. And if you have other questions like this, anything really, shoot me an email, or not an email, leave me a comment in the YouTube description box, or you can shoot me an email, doesn't matter. And I'm going to try throughout the year to answer your questions like these kinds of things on YouTube and in the Creative Souls Facebook page as well. So just trying to help you and encourage you on your creative journey. So my loves, I hope your day is awesome, and I will see you on Sunday.